Hello, hello. How is everyone feeling? We're in the eclipse portal. It is actually occurring on Tuesday morning around 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I'm recording this on Sun night, technically Monday on a Saturn hour. There's a couple things that I wanted to mention about the things that have already happened. Saturn moving into Aries is a huge one. Neptune entered Aries the 25th of January, so it'll be at 0 degrees for a while. And Saturn and Neptune meet up exactly to the arc minute, so 0 degrees and 44 minutes on the 20th of February. And between now and then, there's this kind of feeling of, well, adjusting to this new energy for sure. So I wanted to mention a couple things about that and mention a couple things about the Aquarius solar eclipse, so which is a new moon. So the new moon occurs within 10 degrees of the North Node, which is in Pisces, so it's considered to be a total solar eclipse. Yeah, things that are going to be co-occurring with the eclipse are some beneficial aspects, beneficial harmonious conversations with several other important players. So I just wanted to check in and give people a heads up on what is unfolding, because there's a lot to be excited about. So Saturn moving into Aries. Aries typically is a very go-getter, fiery kind of energy, and it's that emergence, that energy, that vitality is the first sign in the zodiac. And so Aries is considered to be the baby of the zodiac because the focus is on the self, and it's like that, sprouting of the seed, this awareness, self-awareness of one's existence. And Aries being the beginning of the zodiac, this is an entirely new cycle that we are all collectively in. And when Saturn was in Pisces, that was the ending of a previous cycle. So all of the things, all of the ways of being that we've accumulated over the past 30 years, because Saturn takes 30 years to travel through the entire zodiac from Aries to Pisces. So all of those ways of being that have accumulated have, I guess you can say, expired, because this is a new cycle. Conditions have changed, and in order to navigate this new world with some ease and joy, there's going to have to be some things that fall away. And we can still be in the process of this letting go and coming to terms with old ways of being. And the lessons, there's so many lessons that are wrapped up in this transition from water to fire that can still be difficult to grapple with. I mean, this is a fresh energy, like this just happened, and it's like a grieving of our old identities. What I think is really brilliant about this shift from water to fire, with Saturn moving into Aries. And Saturn does not like to be in Aries. Aries likes to go fast, is very impulsive, very instinctive, which is actually a gift of Aries. But with Saturn in Aries, it is in its fall. It's opposite the sign that it is exalted in, which is Libra. So when it's in its fall, it doesn't allow those Aries characteristics to really fully play out. So Saturn kind of puts the brakes on those Aries things and instructs us to really consider why we are taking this action. Like, is there integrity in what we're doing? These are new adventures that we're going on, these new ideas that have been percolating, that have been playing out, and maybe we've been organizing them and being creative behind the scenes. That was the Pisces era, with Neptune in Pisces and Saturn in Pisces, doing these spiritual disciplines behind the scenes. And now that Saturn is in Aries, we're bringing these to the forefront and sharing them with the world. This is something that is felt collectively, and with any kind of shift, we look at the planet that is ruled by that sign. So Aries is ruled by Mars, and Mars currently is in Aquarius. Aquarius is a very humanitarian sign, collective, revolutionary, and both Aries and Aquarius are energies of individuation. They don't care what people think about them. They do their own thing. And with the Aquarius element, we're doing things to better humanity. It's a very utopian sign, Aquarius. So this urge to improve society, and you can see all around us how much room for improvement there is. And we're being shown all these things that are broken, that have been broken, that have not been working for the greater good of humanity. We're seeing all kinds of things that have been working in the background for a few select group of people at the expense of the larger group. And so that is the opposite of how nature's laws operate. And so this is all coming to the surface, and we can see how this needs to be reversed. Like, we are in the process of reversing the reversed. So with Saturn, which also co-rules Aquarius, this is discipline, integrity, and lessons with those Aries fire starter ideas and those actions and all of these entrepreneurial projects, or these things that we've been thinking about, praying about, manifesting, that are coming to the forefront. This is going to have that revolutionary spirit. And with Neptune right there at 0 degrees as well, it's kind of like greeting Saturn at the beginning of the sign, which is a blessing, because I consider that portal, that Neptune portal that Saturn is passing through, to be kind of like that last step before Saturn takes off and pushes through not just Aries, but the rest of the zodiac for another 30 years. And so this portal, this Neptune portal that Saturn is passing through, is kind of like that last phase to burn off any lingering habits that are not going to serve us going forward, whatever that might be. And it's a way to pace ourselves and not rush through things, and really be accountable for why we are doing things. Like, being accountable for not being performative. Like, we're not just going through these steps, or creating these new whatever it might be for attention. We're not doing it for the likes. We're not doing it for the money. We're doing it for an intrinsic value that benefits the collective, that benefits nature. Like, these are also configurations that natural law and like the earth and the planets and the universe is really conspiring and orchestrating to rebuild and regenerate what has been depleted. And there's so many amazing directions that we can go in individually that will rebirth a new world. I mean, there's the Buddhist monks that walked 2,400 miles from Fort Worth, Texas to Washington, D.C. And I mean, it makes me emotional just thinking about it. Like, every single post and reel and every bit of attention that has been shared about their walk has gotten me so emotional, and like, it's touched the entire world. And all of the comments you can see has affected like millions of people. And so this is something that has been working in the background. Like, this is that antidote to what has been projected to us on our screens. All of the sinister things that have been unfolding. The Buddhist monks' walk and the effect and the impact that it's had on the collective, for people who were there and who were not there, who were watching virtually, has been touched and moved by their mission. And they walked through rain, sleet, snow. I mean, I don't know if it was hailing, but through everything. And that is so divinely timed with Saturn moving from Pisces to Aries. And I believe their walk started end of January when Neptune entered Aries. So Saturn was still in Pisces, and they arrived, I want to say they arrived at they arrived in Washington, D.C. right before Saturn entered Aries. And so they were starting to make their way back from DC to Texas on, their tour buses. And the timing of it with Saturn conjunct Neptune, I mean, they walked through all kinds of inclement weather. They gathered so many large groups of people from different walks of life, and that's the effect of Neptune. Neptune is the collective consciousness. It's like that universal feeling. And in the sign of Aries, that's that passion and that enthusiasm and that vigor. And it's inspiring. It was like this match that was lit. And it's just profound how all of this is playing out during this time. And even though they've completed their mission, they've completed their walk, even today, I think his name is Venerable Monk Bhikkhu, who led the walk. His speech, I mean, it was maybe like a 4 or 5 minute speech, and him reminding us to declare each day as our peaceful day. And like even a large crowd, it was raining in Texas, and he still was able to draw a large crowd. And just having that reminder, his integrity and his passion to continue this mission, even though they've stopped walking, but to continue this mission through our hearts. And that is the effect and the impact of Neptune and Aries, and the way that Neptune is having these conversations with other planets, Pluto and Aquarius, is making a huge impact on the collective and really destroying the old beliefs and those sinister and those dark thoughts that, we're only gonna live in this world of war. Those kind of, and it's 111 at the moment, those kind of beliefs are disintegrating. And when Uranus moves into Gemini, right now it's in Taurus, it's no longer retrograde, so it is going forward, but it's at 27 degrees Taurus, right on the fixed star algol, and I mentioned how that's playing out in the last video. But myths are being rewritten, and we're able to bring this light of hope to the collective. And one of the things that I had mentioned in the last video was how Pandora's box. Pandora was the first woman who Zeus created, intended to be punishment for, was it Prometheus? But Pandora's box outflew, all these horrible things, but what was left in the box was hope. And so that is something that the feminine, the goddess energies have a gift of. And so these distorted myths of the goddess asteroids that have been written from a patriarchal view in fear of the power of the feminine voice, curiosity, these are all being rewritten. And I feel like it's taken the venerable monks and like this, Venerable Monk Bhikkhu, who led the walk, to speak up and really give this space to the feminine energies and the importance and significance and power of compassion and love and peace and harmony. And it's like so powerful, and that is what is spreading like fire. And that is the exciting thing about being aligned right now. It is an exciting time to not just be alive, but aligned and understanding these energies and not getting wrapped up or not buying into the propaganda that keeps us in our fear, keeps us dependent on these false authorities, keeping us dependent on the news cycles, whether it's on the news or social media, like all of these reports and salacious stories that keeps our face in our screens. And so we're learning to get out of that. Like a lot of the Neptune in Pisces was all of us being consumed in these stories, whether they were real or fake. And that's another thing now too, is with Saturn in Aries along with Neptune there, we are asked even more strongly to use discernment when we are consuming this information, when there's so much out there that is so deceiving. Like you can't even tell if a bot is replying in the comments or if a human is actually moving their mouth and producing these words. Like you have to really look closely, and even if the message might be this like heartfelt scenario that's playing out, maybe a baby and a cat are playing with one another, whatever it might be, we have to really use discernment to engage whether you want to engage or not, because these AI videos, I feel like they can also be used as deception to see if the collective is able to tell the difference with this type of new technology. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. Like, really not impulsively reacting. You know, it might be cute and touch your heart and make you laugh, but at the same time, like, who are you engaging with? It's gonna require a lot more discernment and patience to make that determination. And so it's normal. With Saturn also moving into Aries, it's normal to like feel like we don't know where we're going. Like, this is a new energy. Saturn is a disciplinarian that, you know, checks us, and like it makes sure that we are doing things properly. And that's the thing about Saturn too, is that it doesn't like to go fast. It's a slow moving planet. It does take 2.5 years to move through each sign, which is a little bit faster than like Jupiter or Neptune or Pluto or Uranus, but it's very methodical and it's meant to do things slowly. So we could feel impatient with Saturn in Aries because, like I said, Aries wants to be the first. One of the shadow sides of Aries is competition, and it plays out as competition because Aries is very instinctive, and a lot of the times Aries people are the first to do things. They take risks. It's a risk-taking energy, and they can appear competitive because they, you know, many times are, you know, the first or the winners of whatever it might be. But yeah, with Saturn there's going to be this feeling of frustration or impatience because that discipline, that integrity is being called on before we jump in. And so that can be something to get used to, especially if you have Aries energies, whether if it's your sun, moon, rising, or even a south node. South node I consider to be also like another kind of like your second moon, because it's how you've operated in the past, and you know, like that's something that we tend to fall back on when it comes to certain situations, depending on where your south node, what house your south node falls into, and what planets are making aspects to the south node. And along with Saturn in Aries, there can be this struggle between burnout and pushing through, endurance. So that's something that we want to take the time to really reflect on, because sometimes we can feel the burnout so much that we retreat or we quit, we give up easily. But it's really asking us to make that determination of why we are doing what we're doing. Like, why are we committing to X, Y, and Z? Is it for, you know, is there a goal at the end of this project, or is it a goal that you align with, or is it because, you know, there's a certain status that you have, or are you in it for the intrinsic reasons because your heart is into it, because you know that this is going to affect and impact the collective in a much larger way somehow. So there's those things to consider when pursuing a project, when, you know, when pursuing a goal or an objective, or when you're applying for a new job or whatever it might be, a scholarship or a school. Like, these are things to consider so that you can be your authentic self, and you're not doing it to people please, and you're doing it because you know in your heart that this is what's going to make you happy and heal. Like, there's a big healing factor in this entire configuration too, like the way things are just playing out with the goddess asteroids and, yeah, the fixed stars. And so with all of these conversations happening, there's a huge healing component for us individually, which then in turn heals the collective. And so there's, yeah, a huge healing factor, which is exciting to consider. There's so many cliches too. This is something that I wrote about in my last newsletter, which is like the last newsletter, because after 2 years it had been time to like upgrade these tools and just kind of shift. And it was a process of learning how I actually have a tendency of writing, which is more long form, which is not exactly newsletter friendly. But anyway, but in my last newsletter, so many cliches have surfaced that have a new meaning now. They've been redefined. Like rejection is redirection. Like this is divine intervention, divine timing, and the solar eclipse in Aquarius. Like there's so many Aquarius planets, which is disruption. It is revolutionary. It is sudden and can be unexpected. And I considered the solar eclipse in Aquarius at 28 degrees divine disruption. So anything that is not going smoothly as planned might be taken as a rejection, which is divine redirection. So this is something that we want to be flexible. Like another cliche that has really been, in my opinion, given new meaning is stay flexible so you don't get bent out of shape. I mean, I feel like it's just got more weight to adaptability now. And it is important to take care of our body. If we push and push for something that, we are insisting on, like we're not being flexible, we're not adapting with the changes, that stress can build up in our body, which will affect our soul. Like if our body is not in good order, then we won't be able to proceed and navigate this life at the optimum levels. And like life is moving really fast right now. Time is quantum leaping. And as soon as Uranus moves into Gemini, it's going to, I feel like time is already folding over itself and things are moving really fast. So we want to be able to be in good working order for our soul's path. Like our soul is really guiding us right now. And for us to keep up with the pace that our soul is going at, our body has to be in good shape. And so your body is a temple, like the temple that holds the soul. And so we're learning and finding out how, there's been so much poison in our food. Alcohol has been given this glamorous or fun or, just like this elevated reputation of being adventurous and fun and carefree, which, it's good to have that experience. And we've all gone through it. It's kind of like a rite of passage. But with as much information as we know now about it and its effects, like there's so many people that I know that have chosen to go sober. And I mean, it doesn't make any sense that alcohol is legal and has caused so many accidents, car accidents, and lethal. I mean, people can go insane, crazy, like causing fights, and it's just really ridiculous how alcohol is more accessible than weed. And weed is a depressant. It like calms you down, and it has been shown, it's an earth medicine, so it has been shown to counter the effects of epilepsy and anxiety. And it affects everybody differently, and there's different strains and everything. So I'm not a doctor, but the fact that alcohol has been pushed and given this reputation of being this great thing to partake in every day after work and on the weekends, especially binging, you get to a certain point in your life where all that takes a turn and the hangover is just not even worth it. But yeah, your body is a temple, so taking care of the vessel that holds the soul, that will take you to those places that you've been intuitively guided toward, is taking more precedence now. And then with Uranus also squaring the sun right now, actually, I think that took place on the 15th, so that was technically yesterday, and that can still play out, like even as we move into Pisces season, which is on the 18th. So that Sun-Uranus square is going to be this uncontainable awareness. And so there's like this sudden awakening that is unavoidable. Like we can't unsee or unhear or unknow these things that are coming to the surface. And with Uranus on Algol right now, that information can be related to the stories that have been suppressed, those stories of the feminine that had been suppressed. I mean, the victims or the survivors of Epstein Island. I mean, their names were not redacted from that list, and they are going through like this huge tragic experience where they're being, not only have they been exploited, but now they're being exposed. But this exposure now is allowing them to come forth with their story and allowing other women to come forth with their story. So this is this huge, backfire of what these people in these high places have expected to just be covered up, or like, it's crazy how Ghislaine Maxwell is the only one in jail when anyway. But yeah, so that's going to be like an undeniable awareness that will change the trajectory of where we're going, especially with this square, this aspect happening during the solar eclipse in Aquarius, which the solar eclipse is connected to the North Node in Pisces. And so that's like our destiny. Like, these are destined events that are happening. And so these are energies that are also playing into what has been called a cosmic prism. That's the term that I heard Lynn Bell use. I don't know if she coined that phrase for the mini grand trine that's happening with Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, or if it was Andre Barbeau, the French astrologer. But this is helping us develop a stronger resilience through nature, through art, through connecting with one another. And it's becoming resonant on multiple levels with multiple intelligences. And so that's how Uranus, which is the higher mind, and Pluto, which is the underworld, which is like those deep-seated, those psychological complications that most of us keep hidden or we don't like to talk about. This is like a, Carl Jung kind of territory. And then with Neptune is the god of the seas, and like that's the collective emotional heart, I guess you could say, the universal heart. And so this cosmic prism that's playing out is considered to be like the most splendid, what did Andre Barbeau say? Splendid relaunch of civilization. So this is something to be excited about. And with the new moon in Aquarius, which is also the solar eclipse, happening on Tuesday morning at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. The new moon is at 4 o'clock a.m. and then the solar eclipse is at 4:13 at 28 degrees and 56 minutes. The nodes are at 8 degrees and 56 minutes, Pisces and Virgo. So yeah, Saturn in Aries is going to be a huge energy to get used to. I'm considering it overcoming egomania, steely inner authority, and sustainable sovereignty, because I feel like by the end of Saturn's transit through Aries, this will be independence and self-reliance and sovereignty that will last at least another 30 years before Saturn enters Aries again. And it will be probably takes 14 years in Aries, so Gemini. Neptune might be in Gemini by the time Saturn comes back to Aries again. So that will be another harmonious energy, but not to get too far ahead, jump too far ahead. And then with Saturn and Neptune conjoining, they're both at 0 degrees now, but their exactitude happens on the 20th of February at 0 degrees and 44 minutes. And I consider that dissolving facades, heroic hustle, and limitless existence. Because this is the type of adventure and entrepreneurship and ventures that will sustain us. And with Neptune there, this is limitless. This is far-reaching, and like these dreams that we've had can really come to fruition with these kind of energies. So a couple things about the Aquarius new moon / solar North Node eclipse at 28 degrees, which happens at 4 a.m. on Tuesday, the 17th of February. Let's see, where did it go? A couple things about the eclipse that I wanted to mention is how the rulers of the nodes, so the ruler of the Pisces North Node is Jupiter, which is in Cancer, and then the ruler of the South Node, Virgo, is Mercury, which is in Pisces. And they are coming to a trine at 15 degrees, so Jupiter in Cancer, which is retrograde right now, is at 15 degrees Cancer, and Mercury is at 15 degrees Pisces. Mercury is in the shadow period, so Mercury is about to retrograde on the 20th, and it will go back to 8 degrees, which is where the North Node is. And so there's these destined conversations, these ideas, these could be even relationships. I mean, Venus is also in the mix as well because she is in Pisces. Actually, she'll be conjunct the North Node at the time of the eclipse at 8 degrees. And so the stellium of Pisces planets with the solar eclipse, the configuration that's happening during the Aquarius solar eclipse is so spectacular. Like, there's so many positive aspects being made. The North Node is conjunct Venus, and Venus is exalted in Pisces. It's got like a VIP seat in the sign of Pisces, so it really loves to be in Pisces. There's a lot of beneficial outcomes that we can experience when Venus is in Pisces, and with it conjunct the North Node, these are experiences that will open us up to a new path, a new natal promise. They can be like magical, unexpected experiences. And the Sun and Uranus are in a square aspect. These can be unexpected events and they can be disruptive, but Uranus, the nature of Uranus is dismantling or disrupting events so that souls can be liberated, so that the essence can come through. And so that's another thing with this time right now, is our essence is what wants to come forward, especially with Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Like, our essence is what is going to allow our endeavors, our projects, our ventures, our creative ideas to really sustain, because within that essence is our authenticity. And so Uranus is going to help us shed those layers of programming, the people pleasing, like the facades. Those facades are dismantling. And then Mars and Saturn. So Saturn is in Aries, and Aries is ruled by Mars, and Mars is in Aquarius, and Aquarius is ruled by Saturn as well as Uranus, but Saturn is in Aries. And so there's a mutual reception happening between these two planets. So they're on the same page. They understand the terms of the signs that they're in, and there's this understanding of what needs to be done, which is beneficial. That's a beautiful aspect to have. They're in a sextile to each other as well by sign. So Mars currently is at, it'll be at 19 degrees during the solar eclipse, and Saturn is at 0 degrees, of course. And then Chiron and Aries are each at 23 and 24 degrees, so they are just about within a degree of one another. And so Chiron, the wounded healer, and Aries, the goddess of strife and discord, they've both been persecuted in some way, and they're both in the process of healing. So they're kind of in the same boat, where they're banding together to start this revolution, to really expose the truth about what has caused them this pain and insecurity. And this is going to, we've all experienced these kind of unfair situations to some degree at some level, and if not, then those are probably the ones that have been taking advantage of their position, their authority, at the expense of mistreating others in some way. And so we can see the downfall of those people, whether they are in the limelight or not. These could be people that are CEOs of company. We could possibly be even working for these people, and their resignation could come up any day now. And the eclipse, the events don't necessarily have to happen on the day of the eclipse. They can happen days before, days after, or sometimes even months. It depends on their individual chart. But yeah, there's so many things going on this eclipse window. And then the cards, I pulled some cards for the solar eclipse in Aquarius, and the first one was the Two of Wands. Two of Wands is an energy of indecision and waiting and patience. You got this globe in one hand, and he's got a staff in the other. And so this requires a lot of focus and quiet time. Like right now, this eclipse window, I mean, for me too, it's been wanting me to be quiet and like not get caught up or engage in social events or social group chats, and just, you know, staying within, staying centered so that any kind of messages can come through, can get clear. I don't want to be overly influenced by external situations. And so I consider this to be like, you know, that quiet that is needed to reach the frequency that you want to communicate with the universe. So gratification can be delayed. This is kind of like a waiting period for sure. And yeah, there was a quote that I came across that I felt connected to this card. What is a dream if not to be acted upon? And so manifesting your dreams takes a lot of, you know, meditating over, and you have to be kind of like in this quiet space to gather your own thoughts and, you know, figure things out, and divine downloads can come in the meantime, especially with Mercury in Pisces conjunct the North Node. So that's something to embrace. And a card that also came out at the same time was the Eight of Swords. And so it looks pretty daunting. You'll see that I don't know if that's rope or some kind of binding, it's down to her hips, so it's pretty loose. So she has the ability to shake off the binding and, you know, be released from her thoughts. And the swords are our thoughts, our mental thoughts. And it can play out as overanalysis, and it requires us to release any limitations, patterns. And because of the binding that's loose, all we have to do is trust. And the water at her feet, I feel like it's connected to the Mercury-Jupiter trine. And did I mention that Mercury-Jupiter is in a trine during the North Node, during the solar eclipse? And so this communication between Jupiter and Cancer and Mercury and Pisces can be a lot of emotional communication, like could be nonverbal communication, where, you know, you're able to maybe receive some sort of touching message, whether it's through visual or music, or even like a baby's look or laughter, something that's that can just touch your heart without having it have any words. So this can be something that you receive when you're in touch with the emotional side. And that's something to open up to. And there was a quote that I came across that seemed to connect with this card too. Fear tricks us into living a boring life. But with the Sun-Uranus square, I feel like that's going to help us also break free from the stagnant ways of being, those stagnant habits and patterns. Another quote that I came across was that feels connected to this is, talk to yourself like someone you love. So talking to yourself like someone you love, we do, you know, have the tendency of doubting ourselves, especially with Saturn in Aries now. Like there is that imposter syndrome that we can fall into, but this Eight of Swords speaks to that best course of action to not do that, to trust that everything is happening in divine timing and everything is going to work out even better than we imagined. And I forget who it was that said that. I think it was Gary Caton that said this is the era of imagination, and that can be connected to pretty much, I mean, so many of these energies, these planetary placements speak to this being an era of imagination. Definitely with Neptune in Aries, with Saturn at the 0 degree point, the 0 Aries point, which has not happened in over 6,000 years. And then at the bottom of the deck was the Devil once again, and we've had this before, where there is an illusion of control with these chains loosely wrapped around their neck, and like the Devil is laughing. And so this is the illusion of being controlled, and we're all breaking out of this illusion of control collectively. And then in 2 weeks will be the Virgo lunar eclipse. So that is a full moon with the sun and moon close to the nodes. And so the sun and moon will be at 12 degrees, almost 13 degrees, and the nodes are at 8 degrees. So that's definitely a total lunar eclipse. And that will be an interesting one because Chiron, Aries, and Ceres, Ceres, will all be at 24-25 degrees Aries. And so with the presence of Ceres, with Chiron and Aries, Ceres is the goddess asteroid of agriculture and nourishment. And so there's a lot of care and support that's being infused with this lunar eclipse. And of course, the Chinese New Year falls on the Aquarius new moon, as it does every year. And this new year will be the fire horse year. And so we're leaving the wood snake. So we're still in this process of shedding our skin as it stands for like the next day and a half or so. And then moving into fire horse. So shedding those old ways of being, those old layers of programming, and moving into a fire horse year, which is all about freedom and going forward and adventure and exploration. And fire, of course, is something that is impossible to stop. I mean, it's, it can spread like wildfire. And so this is a very exciting time. Like, fire is connected to the heart. And so this is energy that we can trust and lean into with the support of Saturn and Neptune and Aries. And both of these energies, Saturn and Neptune, it's not like Uranus, where it can be a sudden event or unexpected, like lightning bolt, disastrous, disruptive kind of energy. This is Saturn, which is methodical and likes to take things slow, likes to make sure that, steps are taken with integrity. And Neptune slows things down and erodes any facades. Neptune ensures that there is authenticity and things are done with a pureness to it. And so those are very supportive for a fire horse year. So we're not just galloping into the sunset very romantically and just letting things fly. I forget who said that we are galloping into the sunrise. It's a dawn of a new age. Like, we are doing things slowly. Like, the mornings are slow. We wake up, ideally, like we are waking up to a slow morning, taking time for ourselves and not getting caught up into whatever is not happening presently, like in front of us, aka on our phones. And that's another thing that the Venerable Monk Bhikkhu had instructed us, do not look at your phone when you wake up. Go to the bathroom, do your thing, then write down, today will be my peaceful day, and read it out loud. Do not look at your phone. And that's, something that I do. I turn off my alarm and then I do my thing. It's probably at least an hour before I look at it. But even then, there's no, I'm not sitting down and checking my email. There's a whole maybe a good 2-hour morning routine or waking up routine before I'm actually interfacing with the screen. So yeah, taking more time to be more inward, and that's where the discernment comes from. That's where we are able to really tune into our own discernment that is in our own good, discernment that is for our own good, instead of giving away our power. Yeah, there's no need to prove ourselves. Saturn and Neptune in Aries is not about proving ourselves to anyone. With Mars in the sign of Aquarius, whether anybody agrees or is on the same frequency, it's irrelevant, really. So this is purely something that is coming from our soul and our authentic self, which will be an entirely new way of being, living. And over the next few years, that's going to be the way to go. Authenticity is the new currency. So I definitely would love to unfold your blueprint for you and let you see all of the beautiful gifts that you have that are meant to be shared with the world. It is such a powerful tool to know your own birth chart and understand the alignments that are happening in the sky that are affecting your birth chart. We're all made of stardust, and so it only makes sense that we would be affected by the planets. It's a co-collaboration between the planets and us. There's different timelines, dimensions that exist outside of this present moment that respond to the planets' choreography and how they are aligned. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that was helpful. And it is really important, especially now, to stay centered, stay grounded. There's still a lot of Aquarius energy in the air. With Uranus getting ready to square Mars, Mars is going to square Uranus on the 27th, which can be very destabilizing, disruptive. It's always good to be prepared, whether, like, as if you would take a unexpected trip. Because with Uranus, you never know what you're going to get. And same with Mars, like those two in a 90-degree angle, aspect of tension, anything can happen. So yeah, just stay centered, stay grounded, be prepared, stay, hydrated, and trust that universe is conspiring in our favor. And yeah, watch the Venerable Monks Walk for Peace. I'm sure they have a YouTube channel. Actually, yeah, they do, because they had their live meditation the day they arrived in DC. So it's so touching. I can't recommend it enough. Yeah, I hope to see you on the next one. Thanks so much for sticking around. Happy transformation. Happy evolving. See you on the next one.